Talking about campaign finance isn't sexy, but you know what is? Free vibrators. More on that later. Trump's legal battles have been expensive, to put it mildly, racking up $500 million in penalties and hundreds of millions more in legal fees since he left office. But who's paying for all of this?
Donald Trump is facing 91 criminal charges spread across 4 indictments and a handful of civil lawsuits.
They're just trying to smear his name, and it's not working.
You know, they're not indicting me, they're indicting you. I just happen to be standing in their way.
Already infamous for his shady financial dealings, Donald Trump has leveraged our broken campaign finance system, taxpayer dollars, and a party held hostage by his loyalists to cover the costs of his personal, alleged, and confirmed crimes. Headlines have bounced between announcements of one record-breaking fundraiser after another, and sensational claims that Trump is on the verge of draining his campaign funds entirely. But with poll margins razor thin and what feels like tens of millions of dollars flying in every direction, I can't help but wonder, how is any of this legal? Is Trump actually endangering his campaign by diverting funds to fight his lawsuits? Has this man touched a single penny of his alleged personal fortune throughout this saga? And what does it say about the state of our democracy that only men with major fortunes and lots of cronies who know how to work the system are able to run for and win the presidency? This is how Trump is gaming the campaign finance system. Roll the intro. Y'all, I am on a mission to make campaign finance law sexy. I'm serious. The more I research and gather info to share with you about why the United States is so messed up, the answer is always invariably because of the amount of money infecting our politics with the interests of the wealthy few. But literally just saying the words campaign finance reform makes me want to take a nap. So to help me make campaign finance sexy, my friends at 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and I are literally giving away free vibrators and gift cards for vibrators to everyone who signs up for the giveaway linked in the description below. 𝗬𝗧𝗏's mission is to empower everyone to embrace, explore, and celebrate their sexuality, and I am here for that. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 is a woman-founded company for all things sexuality. We're talking sex toys, but also porn, erotica, and even sex ed. I've been following 𝗬𝗬𝗏 on Instagram for years. They have really great memes, so I'm thrilled to work with them on this, and even more thrilled when they said that this was a giveaway, so I get to give all of you a bunch of free stuff. For example, check out the Air Vibe. With dual stimulation, quiet as a mouse, and it's compact and discreet and comes in this cute little red charging case. It's 100% waterproof and USB rechargeable, plus no annoying pattern modes. If you know, you know. And check out this cute little demi wand. It works well for all body types, very inclusive, we love that. It's compact and discreet, and it has a flexible neck that allows you to get just the right angle. Just for my viewers, everyone who clicks the link below will get free toys or gift cards for free toys. Christmas in July? Enjoy! Thanks 𝗬𝗧𝗏 for partnering with me on today's video and helping make campaign finance law just a little bit sexier. Despite his claims of being the best businessman ever to business, Donald Trump lives off what one columnist called a three-legged stool: his inheritance, his stiffing vendors, and the money he raises camouflaged as political support. Trump is the ultimate example of a trust fund baby enabled to fail upwards for his entire life. His business debts have been wiped 6 times, all because he could pay a lawyer up front to file for those bankruptcies. It's a luxury few Americans can afford. ProPublica reported that the number of bankruptcy filings jumps way up in March, stays high in April, then declines every year because that's when people are getting their tax refunds and finally have the cash on hand to hire a lawyer. Fun fact, that's also why divorces spike during those months as well. It seems that Trump has always at least understood the value of good counsel. And it's not just frustrating that he has access to privileges that most Americans don't. It's also that he's accessing those privileges by basically dancing on our backs. According to the Washington Post, the DOJ spent more than $12 million on prosecuting Trump between April and September of last year alone. $12 million in 6 months. This year, Trump's hush money trial cost New York City an estimated $50,000 a day in extra security measures, including road closures, bomb-sniffing dogs, overtime pay for security guards, and more. And then there's the estimated $3.8 million a year American taxpayers spend supporting all former presidents. Each ex-president gets $219,000 in pension, a $96,000 a year staff, plus office space, phone bills, and more. Then, of course, there's the Secret Service protection for for life, which Democrats have actually been trying to revoke. In April 2024, an act was introduced in the House called the Denying Infinite Security and Government Resources Allocated Towards Convicted and Extremely Dishonorable Former Protectees Act. I shit you not. So that if a former president, say, became a felon, we would get to stop paying for their perks. Not only would that be pretty dope from the taxpayer perspective, but also from the justice perspective. Given his allowance of 24/7 Secret Service detail, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to incarcerate Trump, should his sentences come to that, if he still has secret security protection. But nothing's happened with the bill since it was introduced 3 months ago, and it's unlikely to get the traction it needs to make it through the current Congress. So we know Trump's legal saga is costing us, we the people, a fuck ton of money, but what about him? It's unclear how much the Trump Organization, his real estate and branding company, may be underwriting. During the New York hush money trial, Trump's former assistant testified that the company was footing her legal bills, so we should assume at least some Trump org money is also in the mix. The same month, we also got one of our only clear examples of Trump shuffling his personal assets when he reportedly sold one of his planes, a 27-year-old private jet allegedly worth $10 million, for $2.5 million to a Republican mega donor. There have also been rumblings about Trump preparing to cash in on his social media platform, Truth Social, but unless his board changes the rules, he can't sell any shares until September. But I'm most interested in political money, which has enabled this man, who is truly awful at business, despite what his own books would say about him — he filed for bankruptcy 6 times — to sidestep his debts and literally get bailed out on everyone else's dime. For regular people, a few $1,000s of debt can be life-ruining and also comes with an incredible amount of social stigma. Wow, she's $10,000 in credit card debt. She is so irresponsible with money. Meanwhile, we're watching a spoiled brat shuffle around tens of hundreds of millions of dollars of other people's money to keep his never sorry ass out of jail. But let's get some quick campaign finance definitions in so we're all on the same page. So there are just individuals who click the donate button on their candidate's website and give them some money that way. Many politicians, like Bernie Sanders, rely almost exclusively on this type of donation. But obviously, that type of donation is not accounting for $14.4 billion in the 2020 election year, for example. And campaigns must disclose all donations of this type above a certain threshold. Then there's a traditional political action committee, or PAC, which has strict limits on how much they can donate to individual candidates and per election. They also can't accept donations from corporations, nonprofits, or labor unions. They have strict disclosure requirements, allowing the money they raise to be closely tracked. This money is regulated and monitored by the FEC, and it's called hard money. And there's nothing that millionaires and billionaires hate more than accountability for what they do with their money. So this will not do. Enter dark money. In 2010, the US Supreme Court released its decision in Citizens United, which opened the floodgates for dark money in politics. In that decision, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations, and by extension nonprofits and unions, etc., are to be seen as people in a First Amendment free speech analysis, and spending money and making campaign ads is protected free speech. So barring corporations, nonprofits, etc., from spending their money on elections was a violation of their free speech. The decision nullified some of the restrictions on direct corporate involvement in elections that had been in place for over 100 years. The court's opinion maintained that any concerns over undue influence from the influx of corporate cash would be mitigated by donor disclosure, as PACs were required to disclose their donors. However, Citizens United, combined with the many other decisions that had been chipping away at campaign finance protection for years, meant that nonprofits, which aren't required to disclose their donors, now had a nearly unfettered ability to finance whatever political ads or movements they wanted to, unchecked by the FEC. The resulting explosion in political spending by dark money nonprofits, which are nonprofits that do not have to disclose where they get their money from, upended our elections in this country for good. Some experts believe that the Supreme Court didn't realize the full extent of the consequences of their ruling when combined with previous rulings and laws. Yikes. So now we have nonprofits with tons of money from undisclosed donors, along with super PACs spending unlimited amounts of money on campaigns, ads, and other independent expenditures. And sometimes those super PACs are getting money from nonprofits with undisclosed donors, or sometimes nonprofits get funds from other nonprofits, making the funding chain incredibly opaque and impossible to track. And even though PACs are barred from coordinating directly with candidates on their campaigns, the lines of separation get murky when you don't know who's funding the super PACs. And those rules are fudged by politicians all the time through the use of leadership PACs, which allow money to be raised and spent on a politician's non-campaign related political expenses, like food and travel and, legal fees. Anything the politician can argue has been incurred as a result of their political duties. And then those leadership PACs can, in turn, accept donations from nonprofits who, in turn, do not have to disclose their donors. And Trump, or more likely his cronies, because let's be real, the man probably can't read, has become a master of this tangled web of campaign finance law. By the beginning of 2024, Trump's various PACs had already paid around $100 million of his legal fees incurred since 2020. In the 77 days between Trump losing the election in November 2020 and Biden's inauguration in January 2021, donors contributed $254 million toward what Trump was then calling an election defense fund. Just a few days in, someone on Team Trump had the bright idea to start a new PAC to hold that money. Enter the Save America Leadership PAC. Reminder that leadership PACs can spend unlimited amounts of money for a politician's expenses as long as they aren't directly related to his campaign, but are incurred as a result of his role as a politician. According to CNN, over the years, leadership PACs have basically become slush funds, helping underwrite travel, polling, meals, and other expenses politicians incur. Save America covered about 80% of Trump's $100 million legal bills, making the Save America PAC Trump's primary legal fund. Primary, but not only. Of that $254 million Trump raised in the wake of the 2020 election, we know that $15.6 million went to legal expenses paid out by his official campaign, the Trump 2020 committee. Some of those legal costs were related to January 6th, and apparently covering the legal expenses incurred when allegedly helping stage a literal insurrection is a perfectly legal election cost as far as the FEC is concerned. As this video will repeatedly demonstrate, the FEC, or Federal Election Commission, the group tasked with enforcing campaign finance laws, doesn't seem to give a shit about actually enforcing any of its own policies. In 2021, Trump's cronies turned his 2020 campaign committee into another leadership PAC, the MAGA PAC, both because the election was over and because PACs are subject to much less regulation than campaign committees. But by the end of 2022, Trump was getting ready to announce his presidential run and needed somewhere to put campaign money. Since none of the cash in either the MAGA PAC or the Save America PAC could be spent directly on election efforts, because remember they were leadership PACs, they created a new super PAC with the infuriatingly similar title MAGA Inc. To kick off its fundraising efforts, Save America gave $60 million to MAGA Inc. towards the end of 2022. Because MAGA Inc. as a super PAC can accept unlimited amounts of money, whereas traditional PACs have $5,000 contribution limits. Do you see how out of control this can get with super PACs in the mix? At the start of 2023, the New York Times estimated that Save America had around $18.3 million in the bank. But then the indictments started flowing, and Trump's legal bills quickly snowballed out of control. By June 2023, Save America only had $4 million left, and the situation was becoming dire. So Trump started diverting 1 cent of every dollar his campaign raised online to Save America. Before long, it was 10 cents of every dollar, but it still wasn't enough. So in a strange, low-key brilliant maneuver, Save America then asked MAGA Inc. to return the $60 million it initially provided. And MAGA Inc. obliged, paying Save America back in $5 million monthly installments. Conveniently, since those payments are considered refunds, they get around the rule that Save America is only supposed to accept $5,000 maximum per donor per election cycle.
I'm gonna slither the nigga snag.
And then 2024 came along and said, $100 million in legal fees? Hold my fucking beer. First, in January, a New York jury said Trump should pay $83.3 million in damages for defaming writer 𝗬𝗓𝗏, who accused him of assault in the mid-90s. Then in February, a New York judge ordered Trump and his companies to pay $364 million for financial fraud. PBS NewsHour reported that state lawyers said Trump exaggerated his wealth by as much as $3.6 billion one year. Keep in mind that in September 2023, Forbes estimated Trump's net worth at $2.6 billion total. So we're looking at a truly obscene and, in fact, illegal margin of error, if you want to call it that. In January and February of 2024, Trump spent at least $9.7 million paying lawyers. March was the month of big bonds. Federal Insurance Company underwrote a $91.6 million bond as Trump waited to appeal the January defamation ruling, though a federal judge upheld the ruling in April, so he lost that one. As long as Trump shows up in court, assuming that time ever comes, most of the bond money will be returned. So these costs technically aren't legal expenses, but someone still had to front the money to bail Trump out of jail or to keep the court from collecting on the damages. Bonds are basically collateral paid to the court to say, if you let me go, I promise I'll come back in a criminal case, or if you give me time, I promise I'll pay the damages I owe in a civil case. If the person doesn't come back to court or misses the deadline to pay damages, the court gets to keep the money. A typical bail bondsman in a criminal scenario, the kind that regular people use, not the kind that Trump has access to that's a little more obscure, but typically the person seeking the bail has to go to a bondsman and pay 10% of the actual bond to the bondsman, who will then front the full amount of the bond to the court to get the defendant out of jail while they await their court dates. The bondsman then gets the money back that they fronted when the person shows up in court, plus keeps the 10% that they were paid upfront as interest. Or if the person skips out on court, the bail bondsman then becomes the bounty hunter and tries to find the defendant to drag them into court so they can get their money back. In our two-tiered justice system, some people have access to the bond or the 10% fee for the underwriter, and some people, i.e. poor people, do not. So they have to rot in jail with the other poors while they await their court date. Poor people literally serve more time in jail for being poor. By mid-March this year, post-judgment interest had brought Trump's financial fraud damages to a whopping $464 million. Post-judgment interest accrues in the days between when the judgment is entered and when the defendant pays the damages. For Trump's case, the damages were so high that his interest rate was accruing him $100,000 per day in additional interest. However, when a defendant wants to appeal a ruling, they can request an appeal bond, meaning that an insurance underwriter, aka a fancy bail bondsman, will front the damages owed, and in exchange, the court will hold off on collecting the money from the defendant until after they have gone through the appeals process. The problem is that $464 million is a lot of money for any insurance company to front for an appeal bond. After Trump said it would be impossible for him to find a company to provide him the bond, filings show he was rejected by at least 30 insurance companies, the appeals court reduced the amount to $175 million, which was paid by Hankey's Night Specialty Insurance. Apparently, Mr. Hankey, not to be confused with Mr. Napkinhead, has been a close friend and business associate of Trump's for many years. So, just to review, the groups with direct links to the former president. We've got Save America, a leadership PAC, MAGA Inc., a super PAC, and the MAGA PAC, another leadership PAC. Then there's the Trump Save America Fundraising Committee, which raises money for both his campaign and the Save America leadership PAC, and also Donald J. Trump for President 2024 Inc., his official campaign committee for the upcoming election. And in case you're like, wait, aren't PACs barred from coordinating with the candidates they support? Yeah, they're supposed to be. Yet, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, the FEC has almost never even investigated coordination restrictions, let alone sought to enforce them, despite the commission's own nonpartisan staff recommending investigations dozens of times. The nonpartisan watchdog group Campaign Legal Center recently filed a complaint with the FEC alleging that Trump's 2024 campaign, Save America, and other PACs had concealed more than $7 million worth of legal costs as reimbursements to an accounting firm, violating the rule against corporations directly contributing to political campaigns and transparency requirements. But the FEC has repeatedly deadlocked on the question of whether leadership PACs like Save America are actually subject to the same restrictions on personal use of campaign funds as campaign committees, leaving Trump to continue using it as his personal legal fund in the meantime. The FEC has so much trouble getting anything done because it's a 6-person commission of appointees, and no more than 3 can be affiliated with the same political party, but at least 4 must agree in order to proceed on pretty much any substantive action, including opening an investigation or writing new rules. So they're pretty much just constantly deadlocked. Reforming campaign finance would also mean fixing the FEC. PACs are just the tip of Trump's big fat campaign finance iceberg. I'd be remiss not to mention his 2 new joint fundraising committees with the RNC. In March, after he became the presumptive nominee, but before his nearly $500 million bond was reduced, Trump and the Republican National Committee formed the Trump 47 Committee, which raises money for Trump's campaign, the RNC, and state Republican parties. They also formed the Trump National Committee, which only gives money to Trump's campaign and the RNC. Politico reported that since early April, both Trump and the RNC have been sending digital fundraising solicitations primarily for the Trump National Committee, with nearly a dozen emails per day across the 2 groups some days. Under the committee's allocation formula, 90% of its proceeds go to Trump. That's significant because that means the Trump campaign now gets a direct cut of the money raised by the RNC. Of course, supporters claim the deal is mutually beneficial for the RNC, which was trailing behind the Democrats' fundraising figures. At the end of 2023, the RNC only had $8 million on hand, about a third as much as the DNC. Not that Trump is now or has ever been in the business of doing anyone any favors. In addition to receiving the first cut of RNC's donations, Trump has asked GOP candidates to pay him 5% of all funds raised using his name or likeness. The split is a minimum. Trump's announcement of the new policy clarified that any split that is higher than 5% will be seen favorably by the RNC and President Trump's campaign and is routinely reported to the highest levels of leadership within both organizations. In May, Trump was found guilty of all 34 felony counts in his Stormy Daniels hush money trial. You can check out my video reacting to the verdict for a refresher on those details. And the donations started pouring in, continuing the established pattern. Instead of being horrified by the former president's crimes, his supporters are galvanized by what they see as their hero's continued victimization by a corrupt political system. And as long as they see his prosecution as persecution, persecution, every felony will just make him more of a martyr like Jesus Christ himself. $53 million was donated to Trump's campaign in the 24 hours after his hush money conviction, causing the campaign's site to briefly crash after the verdicts were announced. MAGA Inc. also announced a May fundraising boost, reporting nearly $70 million in donations. As of June 2024, Trump is facing 54 remaining criminal charges across 3 ongoing criminal cases. However, since we won't see any additional trials before the November election, we should expect Trump to spend much more on campaigning than on legal fees in the coming months. According to Politico, as of March 2024, the Trump Save America Fundraising Committee spent heavily on the tools that have powered Trump's digital fundraising operation, including nearly $20 million on digital consulting and online advertising, $15.1 million on direct mail and postage, and $4.5 million on text messaging. So more normal campaign spending is also happening. It's just been overshadowed by the extreme legal bills and the mad rush to figure out how to pay them. And I say extreme because it's not actually uncommon for campaigns to shoulder some legal costs. It's not even unheard of for a national party to pay a candidate's legal fees. The DNC did it for Biden in 2023. But people were so ruffled when it came out that the RNC was stepping in on Trump's behalf because of the sheer size of the legal bills it's helping to pay. Plus, the GOP's unflappable support for this man is a demonstration of the single-mindedness we can expect to see across the federal government if Trump is reelected in November. But let's talk about the RNC. For starters, what even is the RNC? RNC stands for Republican National Committee, not to be confused with the Republican National Convention, which is also called the RNC. The Republican National Committee provides the infrastructure and coordination that the party and its members need to function. The committee is responsible for putting on the convention, which is where the party's candidates are officially announced and where the party adopts its platform. The party platform is basically a wish list of policy positions the candidate can take or leave as they see fit. In the early days, conventions involved a lot of real-time negotiation in smoke-filled rooms, but today our primary system and the omnipresence of television cameras have taken most of the drama out of the equation. These days, the national conventions for both parties are highly choreographed to portray the party in its best light, unified and hyped up for election season. In addition to overseeing the convention, each party's committee coordinates with state parties to help boost their candidates into office. In 2018, the Republican National Committee was comprised of 168 delegates, 3 from each state and territory, while its Democratic counterpart had about 447 delegates. The RNC was already lean. But then in March 2024, new Trump-endorsed leaders, one of them being Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura, came in determined to de-bloat the bureaucracy. They cleaned house in what Politico called an absolute bloodbath. More than 60 committee staffers working across the political, communications, and data departments were asked to resign, including 5 senior staff members. By enthusiastically gutting one bureaucracy, Republicans are simply following Project 2025's plan to dismantle the so-called administrative state from top to bottom. Per Politico, the reshuffling underscores the swiftness with which Trump's operation is moving to take over the Republican Party's operations. Within a few weeks, those joint fundraising agreements were in place, giving Trump the first bite of every contribution. Again, what's startling about this isn't the collaboration. It's normal for a party's national committee to do what it can to help a candidate win. That's literally what it's there for. What's been disturbing is watching a national political organization contort itself into wild shapes to stay aligned with Trump. Election integrity has an entire section on the official RNC website. On the one hand, it's not surprising that it's leaning into a subject that its base is clearly fired up about and ready to throw dollars at. On the other hand, it's unsettling to see an official body like this doubling down on the idea that our elections aren't already fair and secure. By reinforcing the big lie that Trump's rightful win was stolen from him in 2020, the RNC is basically telling the American public, you're right. You can't trust any institutions. Democracy is bullshit. The only person you can trust is Donald Trump. And as we've discussed many a time before on this channel, that's the road to fucking fascism. For a peek at where that road might lead, check out my video exploring what a second Trump presidency would look like after this. Do you like to be cool, connected, in the know? Do you hate ads with a fiery burning passion? Well, I'm sorry, but this is an ad to join my Patreon community. There you can chat with me and my community, get early access to uncensored ad-free versions of these videos, and more. So be cool. Join my Patreon. The 2020 presidential race drew a record $5.7 billion in spending. Though an unprecedented number of small donors reportedly contributed online, the bulk of the cash came from billionaires who've wielded largely unchecked political power since the Citizens United decision. In 2020, the top 100 donors gave $1.6 billion to political committees. The numbers we're talking about feel absolutely preposterous when most of us are just out here trying to keep up with the price of eggs. And this money isn't just being funneled to Trump. According to Biden's aides, he ended ended April with $192 million in the war chest, allegedly the highest cash on hand figure for any Democratic candidate in history. At the same juncture, Trump was said to have $49.1 million in his campaign funds. But what do these enormous figures even mean? In one sense, they're just another way of keeping score. Like polls, fundraising dollars are a sort of tea leaf we look to for insight into who will come out on top in November. Even though decades of research suggest that money isn't actually the deciding factor in elections, especially when it comes to incumbents. We are all painfully aware of who Trump and Biden are. And in our highly polarized political landscape, very few people are relying on ads to decide who to vote for. For the swing voters we do have, a recent data progress report found that they're most likely to describe themselves as moderate and that they're particularly unenthusiastic about voting this year. 55% of swing voters said they were most concerned about Biden's age, but that if he established clear policy actions to address the economy, the most popular idea being raising taxes on the wealthy, he could win their vote. And I don't know how much Biden is spending to run all these mid-roll ads I keep seeing where he simultaneously looks AI generated and feeble, but I don't think they're helping him with swing voters. There is, of course, other important work money can do, like hire staff, pay $400,000 to put on a single rally, and even keep your candidate out of jail. Pundits question whether it would hurt Trump to be stuck in a courtroom instead of out on the campaign trail, but the pundits, honestly myself included, were doing the work for him by keeping him top of mind during a campaign year. All press is good press, am I right? News pundits gave free wall-to-wall media coverage to Trump's every chill, snore, and fart during the hush money trial. Meanwhile, old RFK had to get literal brain worms to make the news. So besides ads and media coverage, what else is campaign money spent on? Well, jets, travel, bus, another bus, club, another bus. In Trump's case, the cheapest possible Ubers for his staff. At least that's what CNN reported in March. But then in April, he had a record-setting $50.5 million fundraising night in Palm Beach. So again, honestly, who knows? There were reports that that money went to Save America to pay his legal bills first. There's another reason campaign money matters: morale. Ideally, you want the people supporting you to feel like they're part of a winning team, right? That's the big point of national conventions, creating a sense of excitement and pride that will unify and activate voters. Fundraising does that as well. But until we overhaul our campaign finance system, this self-perpetuating cycle of more will only worsen. The same way companies are constantly aiming to please their shareholders with bigger end-of-year profits, the cost of political theater will only continue to balloon. Both Biden and Trump have boasted about their grassroots support and the power of their small donors. But in 2020, a whopping 1.8% of U.S. adults donated more than $200 to a political committee, and that was up from 0.5% in 2012. Neither of these campaigns are being funded by regular people and small donors, no matter how much the candidates boast about it. Here's an overview of the campaign finance flows through official Trump and Biden organizations that Politico created this past March. Biden has the official campaign, the Biden Victory Fund, a joint fundraising committee that includes his campaign, the DNC, and state parties, and the Biden Action Fund, a joint fundraising committee just between Biden and the DNC. Compare that with Trump's chart, which we've already covered, frankly, ad nauseum, and notice that both Biden and Trump coordinate with their party's national committees, so Trump's coordination with the RNC isn't abnormal. What's abnormal is the amount of control Trump exerts over RNC leadership and the RNC structure as a whole. And though Biden's flows appear much simpler, that's only because many of the PACs and super PACs supporting him haven't been directly tied to his organization, possibly because he had less monumental legal fees, possibly because, as we learned in the hush money trial, Trump is just a bigger control freak about money. Despite outwardly deriding dark money, Democrats have benefited enormously from it. According to an analysis by the Center for Responsive Politics, nearly $132 million in anonymous funding backed Biden in 2020, compared to $22 million for Trump. As dark money has started working in Democrats' favor, Republicans have become more critical of it, but little progress towards reform has been made. The Freedom to Vote Act is an ambitious Democrat-led bill that would do a lot of things, including increase transparency and limits on money in politics. Minnesota Senator 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏, who does follow me on Twitter, not to brag, introduced the Freedom to Vote Act last summer, where it was read twice and then referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration, where it hasn't been heard from since. And while some laws could, at least in theory, be passed to reform how much money is flowing into our elections, the reality is that Citizens United created ironclad constitutional protections for the free speech of our country's most important citizens, its corporations. And Congress can't write laws to get around the Constitution, so the only way to truly reform campaign finance is through a whole-ass constitutional amendment. Check out movetoamend.org to get involved in that very important work. Shout out to my newest supporters on Patreon, as well as supporters in my royal tiers, and a very special shout out to my multi-platinum supporters, T, Flitranger Lucas, Joshua Cole, Thomas Johnson, Sophia Sams, Anthony Giles, Tay, and Brett Piontek. Your generosity makes this channel what it is. so thank you so much. If you like this video, you'll love the one that I made about how money is ruining democracy. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.